Hello, all you kings, queens, and those in between, and welcome to another minisode of Busted Limes. I'm your host, Paresh Maharaj, and today I'm going to be talking about a game that I have a rather interesting history with. The final chapter in Naughty Dog's Nathan Drake saga, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. To give a bit of context, I want to start off by giving my history with the Uncharted franchise. I started with Uncharted 2 when I borrowed it from a friend, and it quickly became one of my all time favorites, with the sequences in Nepal being my favorite levels in any game I've ever played, though I know it's the train level that got the most love. But the game as a whole struck the perfect balance between being cinematic while also remembering to be a game and not to have too many glorified loading screens where the player is barely in control. And I'm referring mostly to the trek through the desert in Uncharted 3 with that last comment. And speaking of Uncharted 3, God, what a disappointing sequel, right? I played it soon after Uncharted 2, and while it's not a bad game on its own, apart from some levels that take place during Drake's childhood, it's beat for beat the same game as Uncharted 2. Drake wants a thing, bad guy also wants the thing, Drake starts questioning whether getting the thing is even worth it anymore, before realizing he's doing the right thing all along and pursuing the thing, because if the bad guy gets the thing, the world is doomed. Cue dramatic escape from crumbling surroundings. And just a quick note about the first Uncharted. I got it as a part of the bundle when it was free on PSN, and it absolutely does not hold up, especially with all of its first installment blues with unpolished combat mechanics and very shaky voice acting. That's all I'm going to say about the first game. Um, so yeah, with that in mind, when the fourth game was announced, my first thought was, "Oh, it's gonna be more of the same. I think I'll give it a pass." Ended up putting off playing the game for about 4 straight years, during which I managed to avoid spoilers before picking it up as a free game of the month on PSN. So what did I end up thinking of it? Well, as of this recording, I have platinumed it, and it may be my new favorite in the franchise. Yes, I know. Black Belt has already told me he's not going to stop giving me shit about that. I'm going to go into minor spoilers from here on out, so the long story short is that it's a great game. Check it out if you have a PS4. And if I had to sum up what makes it so great, it's the variety of the gameplay. I mean, yeah, there's your typical cover based shooting and platforming, but there's so many different mechanics you that the game experiments with throughout. And like there's a pickpocket minigame in one scene, there's a dialogue branch where the game asks you which of the previous games was your favorite, and you even get to play a level from the original Crash Bandicoot, which I really like as a nod to Naughty Dog's greatness from small beginnings. But of course, none of those mechanics would have meant shit to me if the story had just remained the same, which thankfully it didn't. I really like the dynamic between Drake and his brother Samuel, if only for the satisfaction of seeing Drake see how it feels to deal with someone that acts like him. This whole game is basically Drake dealing with himself and learning and growing from it. And it does away with the whole "you were right, doing the right thing all along" bullshit that annoyed me in the second and third games. It's just Drake and his brother hunting for pirate treasure, learning about themselves during the journey, and Drake's relationship with Elena also gets a little bit of development. One scene in particular that I won't spoil that managed to convince me that Drake had finally grown up. And it's just a line of dialogue that happens after a particularly intense sequence. But like I said, I'm not going to go too much into detail. And oh god, I even love the scene where it's just the two of them eating dinner, and the setup for the first time you play the level where you're playing Crash Bandicoot, you're trying to beat Elena's high score, and oh my god, the banter that between the two of them while you're playing the level is just some of the best character interactions I've ever seen in any game, period. Um, but before I start going on for too long here, let me just conclude by saying that it's a pity that it took until the final entry in Drake's story for Naughty Dog to perfect the Uncharted formula, but at the same time, I'm glad that his story ended on such a high note. Like, to this day, no matter how many times I replay it, I never skip the closing cutscene. And I've heard some whisperings about maybe the next game. Maybe not, although it doesn't focus on Drake. It'll be focusing on someone else, which, again, without spoiling it, I am very eager to see where that goes or whether there's anything to that rumor. So, yeah, that's just my little history with Uncharted 4. Um, I'm gonna try and get the next full episode of the MCU retrospective out by the end of this month. We were supposed to get it out earlier, but we felt like it would have been a little tasteless given the all too tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. So I decided to put a hold on it for just a little while. But I assure you, the part 1 of Phase 3 of the MCU will be out by the end of this month. So just hang in there, and thank you for listening.